after being owed almost $4 million over the course of 11 years in solar, I decided I wanted to get into something where it was more regulated. And I don't know anything more regulated really than like the insurance industry.
Yeah.
What I love about the opportunity is that I'm not getting paid by the solar installer anymore. I'm not getting paid by a sales organization that works with the installer. I'm not getting paid by finance companies that rely on investments from corporations. I'm working with A-rated insurance carriers that have more money than the Vatican. You know, they've been in business for over 100 years. They have billions of dollars. They get audited all the time, and they pay me in 3 days after I help someone put a policy into effect, which I do every day.
All right, hello everybody. Grady Paulson here, the America Agency. Beyond excited to have Arthur Alexander, and is Arthur Alexander Anaya?
Yeah, that's my full name.
I like it. I'm Grady Michael Paulson.
Triple A.
I like AAA, man. That's good.
Yeah.
You can count on them. They'll pick you up if you get a flat. So
that's right. Call them, no, not me.
Yes, call them. He'll sell you life insurance, but they'll fix your flat tire. So,
okay.
But Arthur's been with us for just a few months, and I was talking to Christo earlier this week. He was telling me how well Arthur's doing, and I was like, "How well?" He said, "Well, his first month he wrote 25." I was like, "Cool, that's good." Second month he wrote 47, and now his third month he's on track to issue 59. And these are top producer numbers. These are elite producer numbers. These are veteran numbers. And then I heard his story about how he's an 11-year, was in solar for 11 years and has made the transition from knocking doors to knocking phones. And now he's just ripping the cover off the ball. And I'm like, we got to get him on. Love to hear his story. Love people to learn from him, learn what he's doing, learn his mindsets, hear the tips and tricks and tactics he learned over 11 years in solar and how he's applying those to insurance. So here we are. So do me a favor, drop an AA. If you want bonus points, drop 3 A's in the chat below. Show Arthur some love. Without further ado, how you doing today, bro?
Good, man. Well, first off, big shout out to my upline, Christo Bolger, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. And he was trying to get me to make the transition from solar to life insurance for years. We reconnected on social media once the solar industry fell apart for me. And, you know, and he was the one that got me into this business. He's a great mentor, great friend. So big shout out there. Oh. But yeah, man, I'm on my 4th month. I actually saw you came on our agency meeting and were a guest speaker. I want to say like my first week into the business, and it was truly inspirational. I got a bunch of nuggets out of that and basically just used you as my standard. So I was like, okay, so I've got to do as much as he did when he was brand new in the business, because I want to get to where he's gone. So I want to follow in those footsteps. And so that was my goal, man, just kind of being in a lockout of my own. I was just working every single day, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, just hammering the phones and reading the script. But really, I just plugged into a system that works great. And I'm just a byproduct of what happens when you do massive activity inside of that system, because we're in a great vehicle. So,
amen. I couldn't agree more. Do us all a favor, just for those that are, might be in other opportunities, those that have been in solar, those that are in other sales vehicles, you might have had doubts along the way in solar, year 3, year 7, year 9, but somehow, industry changed, commission changed. What, if you could, I'd love for you to talk about, pat yourself on the back. Let us know how good you were at solar. But then, what was the catalyst that kind of, get to the tipping point that pushed you this way?
Yeah. So I did a bunch of add-ons during COVID. I had a very close friend, it's my best friend right now, but he kind of figured out that everyone was at home using more electricity, and it's easier to sell something to someone that's already bought that thing if you can just sell it to them again or improve it. And so I was selling solar systems to people that already got them, but since then had been using a lot more electricity. And I figured out a way to sell a whole bunch of solar. So my whole claim to fame in solar is that in 10 weeks, I sold 151 solar deals, power purchase agreements, all self-generated, kind of door to door. I was driving house to house. I had a pretty tactile marketing strategy with that. So I knew exactly who to go to, what times to go to them. But I did 75 in like, I think it was September, and then 76 in October. And so I booked, I want to say it was close to like 940, maybe $960,000 worth of commission, and a whole bunch of great customers, and everyone was really excited. But the company that I was working with didn't end up fulfilling any of them. So I was due pretty close to $1 million on that. But I was kind of used to that in the solar industry. It's not regulated. Well, it's not as regulated as insurance. I'll tell you that. It's kind of like the wild, wild west. And I was, after being owed almost $4 million over the course of 11 years in solar, I decided I wanted to get into something where it was more regulated. And I don't know anything more regulated really than like the insurance industry.
Yeah.
What I love about the opportunity is that I'm not getting paid by the solar installer anymore. I'm not getting paid by a sales organization that works with the installer. I'm not getting paid by finance companies that rely on investments from corporations. I'm working with A-rated insurance carriers that have more money than the Vatican. You know, they've been in business for over 100 years. They have billions of dollars. They get audited all the time, and they pay me in 3 days after I help someone put a policy into effect, which I do every day. So I'm getting these daily fundings every single day. I get advanced the majority of what I earn. And I know that that insurance company is going to fulfill on their product because they have to prove that they've got the reserves to do it all the time with the State Department of Insurance. And so I wish I would have made the switch sooner. Krista always says, you know, nobody grew up wanting to be an insurance salesman when they were a kid. If anybody did grow up, I want to talk to your parents because that's weird, you know. But really, I am having more fun now than I've ever had in sales. I get to work from home. I get to win every single day. I'm with a great agency that's got a great culture. We're just, half the time it's just us hanging out on Zoom, helping each other, shooting the shit, having fun, and winning together. And toughest part about life these days is after a full day of winning, you just, you know, things kind of simmer down, and I'm just kind of in bed waiting to do it again the next day. So that's really it. It's been a great 4 months, and I'm looking forward to continuing to help a bunch of people and do things the right way and keep on putting up big numbers.
That's awesome, man. So I'd be hard pressed if I did dig a tiny bit more into your solar career. So you were clearly well spoken. You clearly could communicate with clients, and you're self-generating leads. Is there anything in solar from a lead gen standpoint that you now have access to in insurance? Or is it kind of, you had to be very creative? You had to, you know, if you found something you couldn't tell anybody because you're like, I don't want them to learn my secret tactic that I found out. Like, is it very kind of like keep it close?
It was like that in solar.
Yeah.
Because you have your radius of where you live, and then you've got to, you know, drive 30 minutes or an hour or so. And in a hot market like Southern California, it's already super saturated and super competitive as it was. So if I do something and I kind of figure something out, I would keep it a big secret. What I love about insurance is that it's a big blue ocean out there. And there's a lot of people that need help. And with the right lead source, you know, you're helping people that just filled out a form, that are interested, that want it, that have the money in their bank account, and they're ready to get a policy or improve the one that they have the day that you talk to them. So I think some of the sales skills may have transferred over. But I really had to kind of work to convince people to get solar, versus with this, I more so just kind of consult on what their goals are and help make sure that I can find them the best thing. I think what's real important is to take a client first based approach and make sure that you're really helping the client and serving them first. And if you help enough people and if you have fun while you're doing it, the money will come.
Yeah. Amen. I mean, that's so true. So, I mean, you know, there's the, you know, power is going to go up 2.5% every year forever, you know, and there's some good angles in there. But we often talk about in insurance sales that we're the only one that shows up with something positive on the worst day in that family's life. And there's a guarantee for that, a contractual guarantee for compensation for the agent and a contractual guarantee for payment for the client. And these are, just like you were echoing earlier, they give us a lot of confidence to work hard in it. And it gives us a lot of confidence to recruit. And I know you're already recruiting. We'll jump into some of that in a second, but I'd love if you would, let's talk about you getting going. Like, so Christo got you some leads. Did you have some capital? Did he give you some age leads? You started dialing? Like what was that sort of first month? I mean, you're only month 3 right now. So,
Yeah.
it's very recent, but what was, did you just sell your first dial? Were you one of those lucky guys, or did you, first a couple dial days, you got kicked in the teeth, you had doubts, you told Christo, I don't know what you guys are doing, I can't do it. Like, how did the beginning work?
Well, I am one of those lucky guys, but I'm only lucky because I create my own luck through just working my ass off. So yeah, I want to say I probably did get a sale in my first day. I think I got 3 in my first weekend. But again, I was just reading the script word for word. It's not like I figured out how to do anything. I just read the words and then I made the dials. So that like the credit goes to the system, But that being said, yeah, I spent $600 on like 600 leads. I think they were like half off when I did it or something like that. And that kept me busy for like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks or so. They were ILC leads, aged. Half the people didn't remember filling something out. The other half of people weren't happy that I was calling. But then eventually, I would reach someone that would get a pen and paper or they'd go, oh yeah, I remember that. And then I'd help them out.
I love it. Well, let's do that. Let's dig into your script now. Whether however you're, what type of leads you calling now? What's your favorite mix? And then I'd love to hear, your script on what you're saying. That's what people are like, he can talk better than I can talk. No, you're just saying the same words. I'm just saying them with passion or control, and I'm asking questions. And that's the new agent challenge, or the existing agent challenge, is that I got dealt a bad batch, or I don't have the Zoom when I started, I was by myself in a room with a printed out PDF and some leads that came through that were paper mailers, and hope. Right. And you just push through and try to figure it out and go, if they can do it, they don't look like sales savants. I mean, I could probably figure it out too. So I'd love to hear how that started for you, or where you're at now with your script, what you're saying. That's what people are going to be like. They're going to clip this and rewind it and go, I want to say what he says now. So I'd love you to dig into that.
For sure. So, and by the way, I'm also a fan of that same mantra, which is, what you were saying. If he can do it and I just do the exact same things that he does or she does, then I can do it too. That's huge. I think it's true with most things. Definitely true in sales. It's harder to recruit and train someone to be really good at door-to-door sales because they got to learn what to say and how to say it. But then they also have to learn how to stand, how to mirror, how all this stuff, facial expression. There's so much going on over the phone. You just have to know what to say and how to say it, and then just always move it forward from A to Z. You're facilitating a transaction. You're building comfort along the way, and if you're doing it right, you're more of a consultant and less of a salesman. No, nobody says at the end of my sales, oh, you're such a good salesman. People say, thank you so much for helping me.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, yeah, I still got the same script I started with. The thing, it's got coffee stains on it, pen marks. It looks like it's starting to look more and more like a treasure map every single day.
That's good.
Now I put that in my desk because I leave it in there sometimes just for reference. When I first started, I followed it to the letter. In fact, I used to get teased by some of the guys because they're like, dude, you literally read that word for word. And I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't it? It works. That was when I was calling age leads. Again, they weren't expecting my call. They didn't know who I was. They didn't even remember filling anything out. And so I stuck to that. Now I'm calling leads that just filled something out on Facebook. They got off of Facebook onto a landing page, filled out a real long form. And I know all of their information plus their favorite hobby. So when I call them, I say, hey, Grady, this is Arthur calling about that form that you just filled out on Facebook, asking for some information on final expense, life insurance coverage. You put your date of birth as this, and your favorite hobby is cooking. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll get into the hobby thing. Like sometimes they put their favorite hobby is like soda, or their favorite hobby is like TV, or their favorite hobby is animals or something. And then we'll talk about that to build a little bit more rapport. Other times I'll just skip right over that and I'll say, okay, great. Well, like I was saying, I'm just the broker that was assigned to process this request with you. And so what I'm going to have you do first is just grab a pen and a piece of paper. That way I can have you write down my license information, and then we can go over any concerns you had. Just let me know when you're ready. And then they go ahead and they grab that, I'd say most of the time. My close rate on these is like 50 to 75%, just batch to batch. And I'd say most of the time they're grabbing that pen and paper. I don't really like to set up appointments because on these final expense things, they no show a lot. Correct. So I always try to get them to get a pen and piece of paper. If they're driving or something, I'll either get off the phone with them, or if they're like a passenger, they just don't have a pen and piece of paper, I'll text them over that info. Anyways, when they're writing it down, I'm also texting it over. And then I also text them over a picture of my dog and myself.
Okay.
So I text them over my name, my license number, and then a picture of me and my best friend. And then I ask them if they have any dogs. We talk about that for a little bit. And then I get off that and I just ask them what their goals were when they filled out that form. Did they already have a policy, or were they looking to set one up? What were their goals? So I could find out if I could help them or not with it. And then they'll talk to me about whatever it was. No, I need to get something set up. I wrapped up a sale like 3 minutes before our podcast started.
Nice.
And I wasn't sure if I was going to finish on time or not, but we ended up getting it done. But she wanted a policy. She didn't have one. So we went over her options. And then what I do right away is I share a link with them through Crankwheel.
Okay.
Crankwheel will text them a link on their phone. They click on that link. They don't have to download anything. Everything that I can see on my computer, they can see on their phone. And then I take them over to insurance toolkits, and then I start asking them some medical questions. And then I just pull up whatever coverage amount that they're interested in getting, or I'll give them a few options. And then I'll show them all the carriers that are likely to approve them at the best rates. And when I'm doing it that way, I'm doing it with complete transparency. I think it builds a lot of credibility to share your screen and to show them a quoting tool like Insurance Toolkits, because when you click Get Quote, it'll show them all of the prices on there. And you can tell them that your goal is to help them get the best price and to get the best policy for them. And so we typically go with the one that looks like it's the best first, whether that's Transamerica or Aetna. There's a couple that don't integrate in with it, like Ethos and Americo. So if they're in real good health, sometimes I'll try Americo first. But once we pick the right plan, then I'm doing the application with them all while they're looking at it on their phone screen.
Wow.
So when I ask for their social, when I ask for their banking info, I don't beat around the bush. I don't really even explain myself.
They see it coming.
They see it on there. So I go, okay, what's your social? No one ever asks it, but if anybody were to ask, like, what do you need that for? I'll be like, well, you know what I need it for. It's right there on the screen. It's for your insurance application. Rattle it off for me. But because it's on there.
Yeah.
It kind of takes them from the back seat to the front seat, so they can see everything that you can see while you're driving. If that makes sense.
Oh, it's fantastic. That is I know a lot of agents who sell up big IULs, they use Crankwheel religiously, right? Because of the ability to avoid that transparency, but or the confusion of, who are you? Where's my information going? Can I trust you? 3 minutes in, now you're asking me for personal information. I mean, I love the dog. The dog. I mean, the picture, it's very humanizing, right? They go, this is a guy, dog looks, the way he looks, sounds okay. This is the guy. He said he sent me a picture of my dog. Do you see it's got brown hair, whatever, what kind of dog you have. But like it builds a lot of trust, right? It's always increase credibility, reduce sales pressure, right? I'm increasing credibility with who I am. I'm a normal guy. I'm your broker. Reducing sales pressure because you see these are the options. I'm not cherry picking, and also you're asserting yourself as a broker. So you're not forcing them into one immediate carrier where they think, well, I'm going to get some quotes. I'm going to call around. This is the first person I've talked to. No, I've got all the carriers. You said you've got X, Y, and Z medication you're taking. We put it in. Now you can see what's available to you. It's brilliant. If guys, that's why you join these calls for these TSIs that come out and you immediately can implement transferable sales ideas. There you go.
The other thing too that I love about it so much, Grady, is that with Insurance Toolkits, I don't have to now guess who's going to approve, who's not going to approve, because we've all done that, right? We've all spent like an hour or 2 hours with someone who's just like extra gracious and patient with us, but we're like on our fourth application that got declined, and we're like, Like I just never felt professional crossing my fingers and praying and blindly filling out an application, which is how I started. But then ever since I discovered insurance toolkits, I put in all of their either health conditions, or what's better, it just takes more time, is all of their prescriptions. And then once that happens, I know exactly who's highly likely to approve. Most of the time, I'm just filling out one application. If it doesn't get approved, they probably just didn't tell me about something, or they're on some weird prescription and the carrier's getting their wires crossed on it. But I can fill out that application and answer every single question honestly, because I already put it into insurance toolkits and it said, okay, well, they're going to be okay with it. So I'm super honest when I'm filling out these applications. I let them know. So like if they smoke nicotine, I tell them, hey, listen, like there's agents that'll lie about that and they'll be able to get you a better rate. I think half the reason why they lie about it is because they don't want someone else to find you a better rate if they don't. But here's what will happen if we put in nicotine, or if we put in no nicotine, and then you die and they take a look at the toxicology report or an autopsy report, they might deny the claim. So it pays to be very honest
100% deny the claim.
and by the book. And I'm explaining this to them. By the end of it, I didn't make a sale. I made a lifelong friend and someone who perceives me as a trusted advisor in this, that's going to do things the right way, that did do things the right way, that knows what they're doing and is acting in their best interest. And so like somebody could call me tomorrow and say, hey, I found a better policy. And if I review it and it is a better policy, I'll say that's exactly what you should do.
Yeah.
But we've got some great carriers and they're very difficult to beat,
Yeah.
And then the other thing I say too is at the end of the sale, I said, you didn't just get a policy, you also got me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's solid. Kevin, you've got some good questions. With insurance toolkits, you can adjust what they see, correct? With your version, you can pick which carriers they see.
Yeah, you can toggle them on and off, so you're not showing them a whole bunch of ones that maybe you don't have. So it's just tailored to exactly what carriers you have.
Exactly. Perfect. Dude, that's excellent. So, okay, you show them the rates. You go with, Moo. You go with Trans, whoever. You pick one. You pop over to the app. You're asking the questions. They see the whole thing. How are you? Are you building more rapport in there? Are there any things you always say inside of that process? How are you elevating yourself? How are you increasing the credibility for the carrier? Like, what are you doing throughout that process to because some agents will be like, they don't like silence, right? And so they'll feel the need to say something, but oftentimes they'll talk themselves out of a sale because they start saying too much stuff. But what are you doing throughout that process?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell them that I'm a licensed broker. Like early on in the call, I go, okay, well, I'm a licensed broker, an independent broker. And what that means is that I'm contracted through several of the A-rated carriers. An A rating is one of the highest ratings that a carrier can get. And most of the carriers that we work with have been in business over 50 years. They're big, giant companies that have been around since the 1800s. A lot of them like AIG, Americo. And then I kind of go through the list after I explain a few of them: Aetna, CVS, Transamerica, and probably several others that you haven't heard of that are all A-rated companies. And so then I tell them what I'm going to do is send you a link. Let me know exactly when you have that. It's right there in your text messages. Go ahead and click on that. Awesome. Now you can see everything that I can see. And then I explain to them how Insurance Toolkits works. So they're connected to most of the A-rated carriers. We're going to put in your health and information based on the answers to the medical questions that I'm about to ask you. It's going to show us who's going to be likely to approve you, who's not. Of the ones that are likely to approve you, we're going to go ahead and see who's offering you the best rate. And then we'll pick the one that's the best for you. And then we'll see if they'll approve you for coverage or not. And then I ask them all the questions. And then after I get quotes pulled up, I'll typically give them 3 options. Unless they're telling me, no, I want exactly $25,000 for the coverage. Cool. But if not, and they're just kind of shopping around, they're like, I don't know, I'm just looking for it for cremation or for burial. Then I'll give them 3 coverage amounts. And then after I do that, I'll ask them which amount they want to leave their family with. And then they'll tell me, and then I'll say, okay, well, I'm going to try my best to get you approved for it. At the end of the day, the insurance company makes the final decision or not, but I'm going to go ahead and pull that up now. And we're going to be able to do it together as you're watching my screen. And then I just jump straight into it. Every question that I'm asked on the application, I ask them.
Yeah. Excellent.